Welcome to Fos. My name is Carla Muzu, and we are back in that blessed time of the year, Took season. So yes, the Took is back. And today we are going to be continuing our series, A Leveling Place, where we are exploring the blessings and woes found in Jesus' Sermon on a Level Place found in Luke chapter 6. This is a similar sermon to what we see in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount found in Matthew chapter 5. Some of the most famous words of Jesus are the Beatitudes, as we have come to call them. What we have here in Luke chapter 6 is a different take on a common theme. Luke takes these same words but doesn't spiritualize the matter, as to place them beyond this material world. Luke is straightforward. He holds nothing back. He does not seek to leave room for interpretation. These blessings happen in this space, in this time, with real needs and real things. Jesus, in this sermon on a level place found in Luke, has often been called the ethics of the absurd, because what we have here is the opposite of what anybody would expect. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the hungry. Blessed are those who weep. Blessed are those who are spoken ill of. This is not what we expect to see in our world. Matter of fact, this is not what we see in our world. We see that those who are rich seem to be blessed. Those who have joy seem to be blessed. Those who have their belly full seem to be blessed. Those who are spoken well of seemed to be blessed. After all, doesn't society, even now, tell us to seek these things out? We don't look at the poor, the hungry, the grief-stricken, and think, to quote Chance the Rapper, "Wow, it seems like blessings keep falling in my lap." In fact, we think the opposite. Let's be honest. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the notion that somehow blessing can be found in the fact that I am hungry. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. My first instinct was to create an analogue out of these words of Jesus, to spiritualize them per se, to make them an allegory for something else. Anything but what these words seem to actually be saying. So today, we're going to jump in to the second and the sixth stanzas of these sayings of Jesus. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. But woe to you who are well fed, for you will go hungry. When I read these words of Jesus, two parables come to mind for me. The first, the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, which we spoke about last week. And second, the parable of what I like to call the Hoarding Farmer. Let's read it together. Then Jesus said to them, "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." He seems to have forgotten the last part of that line. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God." In our society, this man was displaying good sense. He was making sure that he could eat for many years to come. I have all sorts of thoughts about this parable, like maybe it's because the rich man's ground produced the fruit. or the extra, the surplus. Or maybe it was because it was just the rich man's grounds, and it's saying that the rich man himself didn't actually plant or do the harvesting. And so maybe this rich man should have shared the surplus, the bounty, with those who had actually put in the labor. But this is something that just comes to mind as a possibility for why this man seemed to be a fool to God. We can begin to posit all sorts of different ideas, but the reality is this parable doesn't actually tell us why, outside of the fact that this is what happens to those who store things up for themselves and are not rich towards God. And this is why I think this parable fits very squarely within the lines of the two stanzas we are looking at, because it plays from the same ethics of the absurd. It's the ethics that move against our common sense. So what do we do with this? What do we do with something that doesn't make sense by the standards of our society? What do we do with something that in reality most of us are guilty of? All of us have thought it wise at some point in our lives to have a saving account, to make sure that we have more than enough food in our cupboard, and during COVID, in the early months, to buy as much toilet paper as humanly possible. Well, there's no good reason for that one, but we've all done it. We are all guilty of being full while others have been hungry. Recently, I saw this news video from this news service that really broke my heart, and it took place in New York. There was this business owner who had bought thousands of dollars worth of vegetables and fruit and other fresh foods that weren't available in their neighborhood. The business owner, when asked about this, said that they lived in what was called a food desert, meaning that they didn't have access to the foods that we just find normally available to us. None of this stuff that he brought in was available normally. And see, the reason why this made the news was because the NYPD showed up, literally pointed guns at people who tried to take any of the food, while city workers threw all of the fruits and vegetables into a garbage truck. The owner of the business said, "I will give it away for free. I'll let anybody take whatever they want for free." And the police said, "No." The people began chanting, "Let us take the food. Let us take the food. You don't have to throw it in the garbage. Don't you know that this is a food desert?" And the police said no, as they pointed their guns at anybody who tried to save the food from the garbage. This is a community that is underserved and doesn't have what it needs. And when somebody tried to do something about it, true, they didn't have the proper permits, but when somebody tried to do something about it, it was taken away from them. But the reality is the city wasn't going to give them the permits regardless, right? And even when they tried to give it away for free, the police said no. When I hear a story like this, I can't help but read it in light of the words of Jesus. "Blessed are the hungry, for they will be satisfied. Woe to those who are well fed, for they will be hungry." The police officers don't come from a community where there is a food desert. If they did, they wouldn't be able to throw that food away. In most countries around the world, wasting food like that would be a crime. But in America, or should I say in North America as a whole, actually, because let's be honest, Canada can be no different at times. This isn't a crime. We waste because we can. We have more than enough stored up. We seldom go hungry. And it is from this place of privilege I wonder about these words of Jesus. And it is from this place of privilege that I feel blinded by the meaning of the text. Or should I say, I feel blind to the meaning of the text. But I don't really have an honest take on this passage. I don't know what these words truly mean. I just want them to mean something different because I am culpable of this woe. I'm invested in a system that is culpable of this woe. We are culpable of this woe. We are invested in a system that is culpable of this woe. We want to obscure the text. We don't want to know what it means. Because if we can escape the knowing of the words, we can escape ever having to do anything about them. We can plead ignorance. And so our privilege makes it hard for us to read these words from Jesus. And so from our place of privilege, I am not sure if I can offer a real reading of this text. But what I can do is make us aware of the lens from which we read this text. We read this text as those being issued a warning that says, "Woe to you who are well fed."